Welcome to Impact Moments, powered by 90. Today, we're joined by Jay Tankersley. Jay spent 18 months trying to self-implement EOS inside his own company, says it nearly broke him, and 6 months with a professional EOS implementer changed everything for him and for his business. That experience launched a 10-year career as an EOS implementer. The founder of Meritage, an investment fund built specifically for companies running on EOS. And in this conversation, Jay shares 2 impact moments. One from the session room, where a 30-second silence answered a question that nobody really wanted to ask, and another recognizing an opportunity that was hiding in plain sight. We talk about facilitation and trust and how he works with his clients, the mistakes that every new EOS implementer makes. So it's a really good one. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Impact Moments powered by 90. I'm Christine.
I'm Kris Snyder.
And very excited to be joined by Jay. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're an EOS implementer. How did you kind of find yourself in this world? What got you started?
Yeah, I right before becoming an EOS implementer, which was a little over 10 years ago now, I was running a business. It's actually a business that I did through entrepreneurship through acquisition. And so I've never been the visionary who has 20 ideas and be able to do that, but I always wanted to run my own business. So I ended up buying a business that was based in Omaha, Nebraska. I relocated it back to Denver. Things were going well, but I just felt like I was spending way too much of my time kind of on the nuts and the bolts of running the business. And that's when I read the book Traction. And like so many, I was like, oh, this is the missing link and I'm
There
going
it
to do
is.
it. There it is.
Yeah.
And I tried foolishly to self-implement for 18 months and I failed miserably. And then finally kind of got wise enough, hired an implementer. We got more done in the next 6 than we had in the previous 18.
Wow.
And that was kind of the start of my EOS journey. And, part of that was I ended up getting exited with all due love and respect from my leadership team. They said, Jay, nope, you're not the right person to run the day-to-day, which they were correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when they kicked me out, needed something to do with my time.
Nice. I'm always curious about that journey because I think it's common for the self-implementer to try EOS. It's tough. And
Yeah.
then they either are going to quit EOS because they think that's wrong or they go the implementer route.
Right.
What made you feel like EOS was still the right fit and to go get an implementer as opposed to saying, like, this is the wrong system for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was self-reflection on myself,
Mm.
realizing that I hadn't truly given it a fair shot. And I found that the real challenge for me was twofold. Number one was as the CEO, it wasn't a collaborative conversation.
Right.
And we were going through kind of the democratic process of EOS, and I wasn't sitting shoulder to shoulder with
Yeah.
my colleagues. They were viewing it as a directive. And so if I'd ask a question, they'd view it as a statement. So I think just
Mm.
the opportunity to step out of that. And then I also found it really, really hard to facilitate and participate at the same time.
Oh,
And
right.
so I think it was just looking back in self-reflection where I was like, before throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I really need to give this a good, honest college try.
I think we see this in our numbers at 90. So they say in the market, 90% of the companies running on EOS are self-implementing EOS. 50% of our 18,000
Mm-hmm.
are self-implementing.
Yeah,
But what we can interpret from most of that data means that they're running a level 10 meeting
that's right.
and they put some stuff in the VTO. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not, 6 key components, 80% strong.
No, not even close.
And I think there's probably been a few self-implementers I've met along the way where the delta was somebody went deep to be the EOS champion
Mm-hmm.
and they had to almost go to the level of being an EOS implementer
Right,
to make it work.
almost.
And that's the level of time commitment. It's hard if you're actually running that business.
Yeah, and everybody, that makes sense. That jives with what we experienced. We were,
Mm.
sure, we were running L10 meetings, and the L10s that didn't change very much. We
Right.
had rocks, that didn't change very much. But as we were reading the book, accountability chart, you read that chapter, it says, whew, that feels hard.
It feels like
I'm not going to do that. Core process, that feels hard. I'm not going to do that.
814, I don't
It's
know,
Yeah.
just-
2.
And so I think, we were very much a victim of, kind of, hey, here were the things that either resonated with us because they weren't going very well or, kind of felt easy to implement. the hard stuff or the kind of stuff that really adds that depth and that importance that we avoided.
So you exit your business and then do you go right into being an implementer?
I did. I exited the business. I remained as executive chairman of that
Mm.
business. And so I really wanted something to fill my time
Mm-hmm.
and needed something to fill my time. And I had just loved EOS and what it had done for our organization. And so I went out and, spent a week with Gino and Peyton and drank some orange Kool-Aid. And that
Yeah.
was,
And
10 years ago. So, so that was kind of how I got to the community.
Yeah. And so that was pretty early on then. You were in one of the first group of implementers then, if it was
I
10
I
years ago.
believe I was implementer 118,
Nice.
joining the community,
Yeah.
and so at that time, you could show up and give everybody a hug, and you still had 2 hours left of the cocktail party.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So what's been one of the biggest changes that you've seen with like working with your clients over the last 10 years, do you think?
I think the thing that, changed with my clients, I actually think that the more that I've implemented and the more that I've gone through and the more opportunities, it's almost like peeling back another layer of the onion, and so the depth and the richness of the tools and the understanding as you implement them and you see kinda how your clients are utilizing them and what they're doing is I think when you start and then when I started my EOS journey, it was, sure, these are great tools, but now the context and the connection of those tools to where it is and the depth of them, I think that's been the biggest change for me is, and I think that learning will continue to progress year after year.
Mhm.
Like you're going deeper and you're helping your clients like go deeper
Yeah,
faster. Yeah.
I'm going deeper, but also my understanding of the tool
Yeah.
is going deeper, and so the application of it is even more impactful.
Have you found the same thing over time too with like how you've worked with clients?
Yeah, 'cause I think it's you can't sell or implement beyond your confidence,
Mm.
and with time and experience, you'll even enter the danger more when they go, "I don't think we're gonna do process yet."
Mhm.
And you're like, "Well, we keep issue solving on it, so what do you wanna do?"
That's right.
Right? Like, well, you wanna fix it or you don't, and it's that being comfortable and confident even with other stories, 'cause often this happens to me where they'll be like, "Well, I don't know that I believe you in that scenario." I'm like, "Okay, I have 10 more clients. You wanna talk to them
Yeah,
because you're just not where they're at, and if you just follow this process, you'll get the processes in and
that's
you'll
right.
get your relief."
And I also think you become more authentic yourself when you have that, as you said, when you have that understanding and that depth, and you know kind of what's next and how to think about things. Now you can bring your own personality
Mhm.
to every session and every story. So you're not saying, "Oh, well, how do I teach this? How do I do that?" You're getting those, consistent reminders, but it's like, okay, well, let me bring a story from my personal life. Let me bring a story from my past, and here's how it applies, and here's the mistakes I've made. And I think just being able to bring your authentic self really allows you. You're allowed to do that when you have that mastery and that depth within each of the tools.
Yeah, that's such a good point because it's like the why somebody would hire you as
Hmm.
opposed to somebody else. And like every company has a different culture and every implementer
That's
has a
right.
different style. And so making sure those things mesh.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on this show, Impact Moments, we like our guests to bring that story or aha of a thing that happened where you could then go through it and see the ripple effect of what happened. So, what was the impact moment that you brought to share today?
I'll talk about it for, kind of 2 different impact moments because, part of, kind of the work that I do is not only EOS implementation, but, I also put together a private investment fund that invests in EOS companies, and so I think I've, kind of really 2 impact moments, one on each side of them. But I'll start with on the implementation side, as I remember it was probably 3 or 4 years into my journey, and I'd been working with the team. It's actually the third client that I ever worked with. And we were at a session, and for a long time, they had struggled with an individual on the team. It was absolutely the right person, but they couldn't find a seat for them
Mm.
Mhm.
for a variety of reasons to be able to do that. And I think there was fatigue from the team. And this is, you talked about entering the danger. And was the opportunity where I had known for a couple of quarters that the team was losing trust in this team member. And, because it was my third client, I loved him, I was early in my journey, we're always trying to protect a little bit and say, "Ooh, do I do this?" And then, I think for me, it was, the bravery just to say, "Well, let's pause here." And I asked the team, we went around the team and I said, "Does anyone trust this individual?" And everyone stopped as quiet, which felt like for hours, but
Right.
it's probably 30 seconds.
Because
And
that person was in the room
they were in the
too.
room,
Yeah.
and, he knew the answer that was coming. I think everybody else knew the answer was there, and it was nobody in the room trusted him.
Wow.
And, so then to be able to, see that and have that, opportunity and then an authentic conversation around it and tear-filled and whatnot, but then him exiting the team on his own will with love and respect. It was
Wow.
the right outcome, and then that freed up the organization, and they, I had the good fortune to work with them for a number of years afterwards. But the punchline of that story is with that move as the catalyst, they were then, in a few years able to acquire the largest competitor that they had and, kind of really are on a trajectory to be pretty remarkable.
That's such a great story for one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast is not just for the other implementers that will listen, but hopefully for some of those clients
Right,
that are
right.
because they think that they're uniquely them, and they are. It's just their patterns are similar to the same, and there's that I've seen that myself. When it's such a hard thing to do to get to open that door and get them to walk through it,
Yeah,
because it often is the blocker.
right. But it not only for myself as an implementer to overcome that, "Oh, are they gonna hate me? What is this?" But then
Right.
have the comfort there. But for the team, once they saw that it was a safe environment, that they could, kind of really have that open, honest dialogue, their dynamics across the board changed dramatically. And
Right.
they knew that they could now ask each other those questions. They could challenge each other, and they, as a team, could enter the danger and go there. And so, not only is it an unlock for an implementer, it's an unlock for every team that you go into once they feel that, oh, this actually is going to benefit all of us.
Yeah.
It's crazy because you're there for one day
Hmm.
every quarter and
Hmm.
you could see it over time, but
Yeah.
they're living it day to day and they're still not having the conversation even though they're constantly dealing with it. Were there any certain like tools or things in that conversation that you felt like you leaned on to like help get the team to open up or get to the right place?
Absolutely. I mean, you start to look at the trust building exercises and kind of leveraging and leaning in on Lencioni's great work of the five
Mhm.
dysfunctions of a team,
Oh yeah.
and being able to kind of facilitate and use that framework as a conversation rather than a personal attack. It
Right.
was really helpful. And so, I think the answer to every issue, right, is in the tools.
Mhm.
And so how to, kind of really understand that and really building the trust and the confidence in the teams to look back to the tools. And so we're not talking about personalities. We're not talking about egos. It's just a really authentic conversation that's based on the brilliant framework of the EOS toolbox.
Yeah, I like a lot of Lencioni's frameworks set up the like we're all trying to work on this one problem together. It's not about one person. It's like
Hmm.
what's the outcome that we're all trying to drive.
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah, there's a lot of power there of taking yourself out of it.
It just removes the emotion and the ego. And of course, there's emotion. There's tears. We're
Right.
human
Right.
beings,
Yeah.
but I'm not attacking you as an individual and who you are as a human being. We're trying to solve the problem in the interest of the greater good. Yeah.
So what was your second
Yeah. So the
impact
second
moment?
on the investment side is interesting. Early in my career, I was kind of in the venture capital space and always kind of been a angel investor for as long as I can remember. And so when I joined the community, and we talked about 120, 150 people,
Mhm.
it was really interesting. Is a lot of people, you start to have these conversations. You learn about the wonderful diversity of backgrounds, and people say, "Oh, well, you've done some investing, you've been in venture capital." And so I was getting a lot of questions like, "Well, I'm working with this client, and they're looking to raise money. I'm working with this other client, they're looking to sell their business. Do you have a couple of bullet points that I could share with them?" I, kind of just step back and said, "Well, I'm happy to help, but it's probably more than a couple of bullet points."
Right.
And
You solve it that fast.
and so I just, for me, It was this thing, this connection that was right in front of my face, and stopping and taking the time to say, you know what? There's a need within the EOS community for a professionally managed pool of capital. And there is, probably really interesting opportunities in the EOS community for capital to be deployed. And so
Yeah.
being able to step back
Hmm.
and see the connection and see where it was, I think was one of the real ahas for me. So I was able to put together, kind of our EOS-focused fund, and so for me, it's and I try to teach all of my clients and teams that I work with is, you never know the opportunities that are right in front of your face. We're always trying to search and find and dig and say, well, what's the next big shiny penny, whatever it is. But if we just kind of pause and allow ourselves to see, the trade winds blowing, we're going to see some really interesting things. And so I think the aha moment for me was just to say, you know what? Don't dismiss it because it feels hard or it's not obvious. Just
Right.
kind of pause and see those connections. And I think when teams and entrepreneurs, kind of do that, it's very easy for us to get caught in the day to day. It's very easy for us to focus on what it's going to be in 10 years. But if we just kind of pause and, again, for me, it was before I really do this and was a disciple of taking a clarity break.
Hmm.
And that clarity break allows us to make those observations and to make those connections, and that can lead to something that's very powerful.
It's probably not well known outside of the EOS implementer community, but Freedom Forum is this really cool thing where you hit a certain dollar number and you're eligible to go. And part of that then is talking about financial freedom as well as the freedom of self.
Mhm.
And I think when I first saw that and I financially understood that most of these implementers are solopreneurs, right?
That's right.
They're by themselves, they're doing great work, but there is no value created in that business. You can't really transfer your customers. I mean, you can do a little bit, right? But there's no real enterprise value
That's
being
right.
created. So if you do it well and do it right, it's got significant cash flow to it but no enterprise value. So when the first time we talked about your fund, it was like, well, that makes more sense because not only do you have an intelligence to the customers, the clients that you serve, they also do have these needs. And if they have
Oh,
these needs, who better than the implementers that are coaching them actively to come through and do something like that? And then the implementers obviously have their value being created
That's right.
while they're not in a session room, because so often
Yeah.
that's the only value that they're creating.
Yeah. It's true. And really the other thing that I found is kind of going through as I saw this connection is, as EOS implementers, we love companies running on EOS. And so as an investor, I personally, I was like, I would never invest in a company that wasn't running on EOS. And
right.
I started to have conversations with a lot of people in the community like, oh yeah, if I'm going to ever invest in a company, they have to be running on EOS. And so what we really wanted to do is, well, could we provide a vehicle and access for the community to be able to, invest in the companies that we love so much and the system that we love so much. So it was not only to, kind of start to think about something that does have enterprise value, but it's like, can we offer something to the
Sure.
community as well?
That's a really cool perspective. I know I'm working with a few private equity firms right now that are starting to think in that same way, where it's like, oh, if I can see my portfolio and actually have access and then also like a system that's really common across all of them, now I can make more informed decisions or know when to jump in. So I feel like there's a lot of power there and like having that as your baseline framework to understand performance too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, depending on family office, private equity, VC size, a lot of them are looking for their own, kind of what's the toolkit, what's the playbook,
Yeah.
and why put your energy and effort into defining that when EOS is already here?
That's right.
Use it as a commonality of language and structure that you can. And if you're the CFO of the family office, when you talk to the 10 different port codes that you're
Hmm.
owners of or
That's right.
investors in, you have that structure's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remind me, how long again was it that you set this up, first set it up?
The fund was closed in the end of 2018.
So you'll be 10 years in soon.
Yeah, we're
Um,
8 years in right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you learned over that period of time? Like, what did you do initially that you're not doing now or vice versa?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think it's interesting. The first going back to what I just said, the original premise of the first fund was, twofold. Number one is we wanted to provide a vehicle that could offer private capital,
Hmm.
growth equity to the EOS community. So that was number one. We thought that there was, kind of companies within the EOS ecosystem that could use and benefit from access to EOS friendly capital.
Yeah.
So that was one. The second real thesis was we thought that the EOS community would like to have the opportunity to invest in EOS run companies. And so both of those theses proved to be true because of the incredible success of EOS and the growth that it's experienced and the regulations of the SEC. We can't do number two anymore because we can't offer an investment and have, a large percentage of the community invest alongside a fund with us. Because when we did it, we had probably 35 to 40% of the community kind
Right.
of join us, kind of as investors in the fund. Well, 40% of the community today is, over 350 implementers. And we can't the SEC will not allow us to have more than 100 in a fund. And so I think that we've learned that there's got to be different avenues and different opportunities to be able to do that. And so we'll still, kind of invest in companies running on EOS, but we'll do it through a different structure and not going to raise a fund. So I think that was thing one. I think thing two is what we really learned is the execution risk of companies running on EOS is significantly mitigated,
Hmm.
and that is that is a very powerful aspect. And so we want to continue to only invest in things, and so invest in companies that are running on EOS, just because that execution risk
Right.
and being able to mitigate that, most investors will take that execution risk. They said, well, hey, if I can do my due diligence on everything else about the business, the one risk they're unwillingly taking is execution risk. And if you said there's, hey, we've got a silver bullet to say we can mitigate execution risk, that feels like a really powerful thesis.
Yeah, it's an unfair advantage,
We,
right? Like in the investment world.
we think so.
Yeah, I
We
would, I
think
would,
so.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Um, well, I think I can say this, but so I'm going to say it. But you guys actually set up a fund to invest in 90 as well,
we did.
right? With the
We
EOS
did.
implementers,
We
which
did.
we were grateful for.
Yeah.
But that, and I think that helps not only EOS run companies, but companies that help other companies run on EOS,
Right.
right?
We felt very, fortunate to have the opportunity to, kind of be part of that and also, bring in so many of our colleagues into, kind of a vehicle that could invest alongside, kind of 90.
Another thing we like to ask all of our guests.
Mm.
So, obviously, lots of hard work and toil to get you to this point of where you are, but always struggles along the way on the entrepreneurial journey. So, what would you look back on and think, man, this is a really big fuck up for me, and I wish I could go back and do it differently? What would that moment be for you? And, like, kind of what's your reflection on that?
As an implementer or as an entrepreneur?
Wherever the question guided you,
I
either
like the
way.
implementer one, but that's me.
Do both.
Yeah, do both. Yeah, so I think, and this is part of the journey, and probably hear this from so many people. For me, it was actually not understanding that the teams that I was working with and the clients that I was working with didn't know EOS, right? And so early in my journey, there were several times where I missed a section of the day or didn't say something right
Mhm.
and got through it. And I would always apologize. I would send a follow-up email. I remember, kind of a specific it was in one of my first vision building day 2, second vision building day. And we got through it and I think it's going well. And we got to the end of it and it was great. We did, kind of the 1-year plan and we did that. I forgot to set rocks.
Oh.
Right? And so you sit there and, do this, and I was spinning on it for so long
Yeah,
and then kinda sent an apologetic email and said, "I'll do this," and, candidly, they were so excited
Yeah.
about the 1-year plan that they wouldn't have known that we didn't set rocks,
Yeah.
and they would have gone and they would have, kinda carried forward some of the things, they would have gone through it. all this, but I made this big deal and be able to do that. And so I think, there are so many screw ups at the beginning of the journey and you're trying to focus and you're trying to get the words right and you're trying to do this and you're just not, kind of paying attention. And so that was a big one from there.
I think it was Gene Roberts, who's an US implementer in Cleveland, who told me that you're going to do a terrible job on your first 5 clients.
Terrible.
The best part is they're not going to know.
That's right. Right. No one gave me that advice, right?
No,
And so I was telling them that I was doing a bad job, which is even worse.
Yeah, but he was right. Because you
Right.
do know it. It's like, oh, shit, that's not, that was not in the guide. I
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
done that.
That wasn't in the video.
That's
Like,
right.
I couldn't do it. Yeah, absolutely. And then, as an entrepreneur, um, I think for me, it was trying to lead this is before I found EOS, was trying to lead the organization as a democracy. I thought that, you know, everybody needed to collaborate and we had to
Mhm.
get there and be able to do this. And, so we got stalled so many times. And I knew in my heart of hearts that this was the wrong decision, but the rest of the team wanted to do that. And I didn't have the confidence to be able to do that because, well, if I tell them this way, maybe they'll leave. And I was operating for a long time as an entrepreneur before I found EOS in a space of fear. And I think any entrepreneur that is operating in a space of fear, trying to appease the needs of a person or a customer or a client, we've all been there. And so I think,
Yeah.
my biggest, you know, in your words, fuck up as an entrepreneur was, you know, trying to protect everyone and everything around me and not ruffle any feathers. And,
You're keeping the
yeah,
peace.
you as an entrepreneur, we have to be bold and we have to be brave and we have to have the opportunity in the toolkit to be able to do what we're trying to do. It's hard enough, and if we try to do something hard and appease everybody else, we're doomed to failure.
Yeah, one of my favorite isms and or sayings is that when you see that democracy thing happening, I'm like, "Hey team, look, good news. We live in a democracy, but you do not work in one.
That's right.
And this
That's right.
person's got to decide what we're
They gotta
doing
decide.
today. Otherwise, we can't get from here to there."
That's right. Well,
And
I mean, that's why I love EOS because it is a democratic process, but make no mistake, it's not a democracy,
no,
Right.
there's a
right?
decision's going to get made.
And that's, I think, what's so powerful, and I think so many people confuse a democratic process and a democracy. It's like, "No, no, no, we can hear everybody, and we can do this," but at the end of the day,
There's an owner, there's a
there's an
decider.
owner,
Yeah.
and we have to decide,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we gotta move forward.
Do you feel like that's why that first 18 months of self-implementation failed? Was it attributed to, like, some of that trying to appease everyone? Or
I think a little bit it was, yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, yes, but I also think that a lot of people around the table, because of the hat I was wearing, didn't engage in the democratic process appropriately. So
Right.
Mm,
it was yeah, sure, a little bit, but I think more so it was I would say, well, what do you guys think about this? And a lot of the team would say, that's a directive, not a question. You can have an implementer say, what about this or what about that? Who was independent and third party. Then they'd say, okay, I could engage in a conversation and I could debate them. And so I think it was really that because of the hat I was wearing, we couldn't engage in the democratic process, in the conversation, and the conflict, and everything we needed to.
mm.
Yeah, and I think when I was the CEO leading a company, I didn't think I was facilitating a meeting. I thought I was leading the meeting.
Always, right?
And that is a totally different flip the script moment when you go into facilitation mode
That's right.
and you say, "Hey, Bob, just reading your body language, it doesn't look like that's sitting well with you unless that's indigestion." Bob laughs and he's like, "Okay, let's talk about it." Right. But I didn't do that as CEO. I was, like you said, I was putting it out there and they were taking it the way they were taking it.
That's right. Yeah, and you can't. I mean, like it's too hard. Even if you say, I mean, I would try some tricks to say, hey, listen, I'm putting my facilitator hat on.
Do you
I,
think it won't work no matter what because of who you are and the seat you're in most scenarios?
I,
I think you're better off having somebody else, even on your team, facilitate the meeting.
Oh, interesting,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they can still have more of that. They're not the CEO in that moment. Um, so I do think back to the champion. You can find somebody to go invest
sure,
the time and be a good champion of EOS. That's not an EOS implementer, and quite honestly, you need one inside your company anyways most of the time.
Definitely.
But I do think it's just really hard for people to see if you're sitting in that seat, right? See it differently.
Yeah, I think now I agree wholeheartedly with you. At the start of the journey, when you start an implementation and we're trying to get the tools in place, I do think you need, whether it is an implementer or somebody, kind of else who's not the CEO to be the champion of that to get it off and running. Now, when they've got the tools and built the muscles and the memory to be able to do that, can a CEO come in and facilitate? Absolutely. But that's because the team has been coached and
Right.
understands how to engage in this manner.
They know
And
how to
so
participate in
so
the
so so, so
process,
that's
build some
exactly
trust.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And so I think it's just a lot harder at the beginning because you're trying to shed bad habits
Mhm.
and the way we've done things for so long and start this new system, but it's hard. Change is hard. It's hard for us to
Mhm.
figure out our behaviors and to forget those, and you got to move in that direction.
And I think we're lacking some language because we refer to companies that haven't had a professional implementer as self-implementing, right? And we use that for them in the continuum until they do have a professional implementer. But then graduation, my experience has been if I meet somebody who was professionally implemented,
Hmm.
I'll say, "Do you run on EOS?" We run on EOS. We are self-implementing. And it's like, I think we're lacking language.
Yeah, I
You
think
just
it's
run on
just what
EOS now.
you
Right,
run
but
on
they're trying to
EOS.
make the distinction that they're not actively being coached in that moment,
Yeah,
right?
it it's interesting. I've heard that a couple times. I wonder if it's just a defense mechanism to say we've already we've already done
Done it.
this, and so I don't need to hear the 90 or
Right,
whatever it is. And so
right.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, yeah, we could spend some more time on that, but I don't think we need to.
No, I agree.
My last question for you is what are you reading, watching, listening to that's helping you grow, learn professionally or personally?
On my nightstand right now is the new book Visionary by Mark Winters, and
Great.
that is phenomenal. And so that's what I'm currently reading.
Yeah.
I would encourage everybody out there, I mean, visionaries and integrators to read the book. I think it's really powerful. So that's on my nightstand right now. And then what I'm listening to is I've actually been listening a lot to the Mel Robbins podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's brilliant, and I think sure a lot of the lessons are there, but what her gift is the ability to tell stories and to bring kind of people to be able to do that. And, I think ultimately at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, our success is in direct, correlation to our ability to tell stories. And I think
Yeah,
she's brilliant at that. And then what am I watching? One of my good friends back in Colorado, he just released a docu-series, a short kind of docu-series on Amazon about the American Basketball Association.
Oh, cool.
And it is riveting, and they found a bunch of old footage, and all the old players from kind of the ABA are interviewed, and so it is you know
Is it about like the history
it
and where it
is
came from and where it is today?
it is well,
Yeah.
the ABA was gobbled up by the NBA,
Mhm.
and
mhm,
so it's just a very powerful kind of series that talks about, kind of the power of the ABA, kind of the history, some of the key players. I mean, some of the key
Cool.
players, Julius Erving and, kind of everyone was in there. It was really, 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 really powerful. So I could not recommend him
Nice.
more strongly.
what's the actual name? Just is it ABA or is it
The ABA docuseries, I think it's called The Soul. I don't know.
I'll Google it.
It's on Amazon.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's kind of the ABA series.
Okay.
It's great.
Nice. I love a nice sports documentary. I feel like they're always so good,
Mm,
especially like when you talk about the storytelling and like what
sure.
people went through. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's cool.
yeah. Gives a little more context.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today with us. Really appreciated your perspective and your impact moments that you shared. So thank you again. If people want to get in contact with you, how should they do that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Well, first of all, thank you. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure. Really enjoyed the
Yeah,
conversation. If people want to get in contact with me, best way to do it is just visit our website, which is Meritage, Meritage.vc.
Cool.
So meritage.vc is where you can find us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
thank you
Great.
so much.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks. Jay's story is a reminder that the hardest conversations are often the most clarifying. That silence around the table wasn't the end of a relationship. It was the start of the company's next chapter, and one that's rooted in trust and honesty. The same's true for the investment thesis that he has. Jay stopped chasing the next shiny penny and paid attention to what was already right in front of him. And that kind of clarity is what we work on every day at 90. So it really resonated with me, how we work with business leaders and entrepreneurs and actually focusing on the next right thing based on the goals that they've set to run better meetings and build stronger teams. So if today's conversation resonated, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and we'll see you next time.